Yeah, we wanted to record it for people that can't be here. So this trip is a follow-up. So to set the scene, in 2006, Nancy and I started a bike ride, self-supported, on two different bikes, on two separate bikes, in Inuvik in Northwest Territories in Canada, right up near the Arctic Ocean, as you can see. And we rode for 2.5 years. You can see we rode down through Canada and down the west coast of the US. And then we went home and started over again and started in Phoenix. This doesn't actually, it does show what we did. And then we rode down to Panama, where we took a sailboat and continued on down through Colombia and Ecuador and Peru and Bolivia, and then Argentina. And we went a little farther than this in Argentina. We went down here, as you can see, and that was where and then we rode across to Chile, to Puerto Montt, or Puerto Varas is right near there, so you'll hear us mention Puerto Varas a number of times. So that was how our trip, we kind of ran out of gas in Argentina after 2.5 years and 14,000 miles. But Nancy had always wanted to go do that again. And so we've been talking about it for a few years. And last year we decided to take a little shakedown trip, and we rode the C&O Canal fully loaded from Washington, D.C. to Pittsburgh. And we felt like we passed the test. And so we proceeded on with thinking about whether we could go. And we didn't intend to finish our ride. Our intended destination was the very bottom of South America, the last town in South America, which is Ushuaia, kind of the end of the road there. We didn't intend on this trip to get there, but we did intend. I'll show you what we did intend to do. Let's see if I can get so if you can see that, here is in Chile, Puerto Varas, or Puerto Montt is right next to it. This is where we started. Actually, we started there 3 different times. And this road that you see in blue here is called the Carretera Austral, which in Spanish means the Southern Road. And it goes about, this says 1,300 kilometers, about 850 miles or something like that, down to Via O'Higgins, which is the bottom of the road. That's where basically you can see here that everything in Chile turns into glaciers and fjords and everything else after that, and there's no way to build a road beyond that. So that was our primary view of the world, was to get to Via O'Higgins, and then our intent was to cross this sketchy bike and on foot only path that goes from Via O'Higgins over to El Chaltén in Argentina. And then our intention was to ride down through Argentina and then back to Puerto Natales, which is right here. So that would have been the end of our trip, was Puerto Natales. And so that was our intent. And we didn't intend to go down to Ushuaia down here at this point, but that sets the stage of what we were trying to do when we flew to Chile on about the 2nd of December or something like that, with our tandem all packed up. And feel free to speak up if you have any questions. It's always fun to hear what you have to say, and feel free to
Hey,
put
Randy,
in
sorry.
the comments
I
as well.
remember back in the days of ESI, you were into bicycling back then. Were you into tandeming back then, or is this a relatively new thing?
Nancy and I started on the tandem maybe, well, with this bike is 10 years old. It had its 10th birthday when we were in Coyhaique. But we started 2 or 3 years before that. So yeah, we did all of our big trip through the Americas. We did on separate bikes, mostly mountain bikes. I have a picture of those someplace, but we switched to tandem. Then I'll explain why, but I just love the tandem because we're in this, and I love traveling on the tandem because we're in the same place at the same time. We share the experiences and we can talk, and we go the same speed. And the reality is Nancy didn't want to do this on a tandem. She wanted to do it on separate bikes. But she gave in, and she was willing to do it. She was willing to do it because that's the way I wanted to do it. Well, she was right, and we should have done it the other way because we didn't. Well, you'll see why. So, any other questions before we look at some pictures? Feel free to speak up anytime. Here we are with our bike packed up. It goes into these 2 suitcases. You can see that there are a lot of piece parts and it takes a bit of work to take it apart and put it in there, and of course a bit of work to put it back together. It probably takes 3 or 4 hours to do it each direction, but it's not hard anymore. We've done it 5 or 6 or 7 times, and now we know how to do it. So here we are. We've gotten to Puerto Montt, and we're taking a walk down by the lake there, the beautiful lake, and you see the amazing volcano that you'll see in several of the coming pictures. That is Volcan Osorno, the volcano Osorno, which is, I just think, one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. It was such a lovely thing riding toward that. This is our friend Bill, who lives here in Grand Junction, but lived in Chile for years and still has a place in Puerto Varas. And he welcomed us there and made a launching spot for us and joined us a little bit on the trip. He came with a car and joined us in several different places. It was really quite delightful. Here we are on the first day. Nancy, speak up all the time.
All right, you're doing a fine job. We didn't take that dog with us. The person that was doing the photograph, we held her dog. So
yeah, I couldn't figure out yesterday where that dog came from, and people asked that on Facebook. Where did you take a dog? And
no.
You see our friend Dale here on the left, who is about 6'25". Joined us. We put this, Nancy, against her better judgment, put this as an invitation on our local cycling meetup, the Grand Junction Cycle Paths, and Dale actually came, and we had a great time, and he was a great companion. So you'll see him several times. And then the very first day, as we are riding out of town, there's a shop there, actually where Dale rented his bike. And there's a guy there that we're chatting with, a Chilean guy from Santiago. And this is our friend Jorge. And we met him. We had no idea. We just chatted with him. And then he rode with us that first day. He was starting out. That was his first day, his first hour. First hour on the bike, going to do the Carretera Austral. And he became a great lifetime friend and rode with us all the way. And you'll see him all the way through here. And he also is an amazing photographer, and he just loved taking pictures of us because it gave context that you can never get when you're riding alone. You know, when you're riding, you never get yourself in the scenery, really. You just take pictures as you're going. But he did an amazing thing. Ellen,
Hey guys.
hey.
So you didn't know him? He just happened to be starting the trip at the same time.
That's exactly right.
That's
Yeah,
so
we had
weird.
Mm-hmm. It was amazing. And it was just a phenomenal threesome. He had done this before several different times, and he knew all of these areas. So he was our tour guide in many of the areas, and also our photograph crew. And so you'll see some amazing photos that he had. He speaks only Spanish, and Randy speaks Spanish and English pretty good. And I hack at Spanish, but we had a good time and it worked out. Just a wonderful learning and cultural sharing experience the whole way. He's
That is
a
so
true
cool.
friend.
That is so cool. So how long were you actually with him? How many weeks?
2 months.
2 months, the whole time. Okay.
No, well, no.
Oh,
Well,
so
maybe 6 weeks.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an amazing thing.
That is dumb luck.
I'm
Yeah.
impressed with the efficiency of his bike packs. He's very
Yeah.
minimalistic and everything.
Yeah,
He's-
he's about my height, and that being so short, I didn't think that someone this short as me could fit all this gear on a bike. It's just a really challenge, but it's all Ortlieb material, and very efficient.
This is the way that those of us who bike pack in the mountains, like here in Colorado or elsewhere, we usually try to pack like this, although very few people have things like his front fork packs, but they
Yeah.
usually, and nobody has ever seen a seat pack as big as his. That is beyond comprehension. And I'm pretty sure that wouldn't work in the mountains.
There's-
But it's the normal bike packing style. And if we knew how to do that on our tandem for 2 people, we would consider it. I don't think we know how to do it.
Yeah, there's something wrong with the physics there on that thing. I wouldn't want to hit a big bump on it.
Yeah, even with a smaller one, like the one I have. Well, I already had to take one back because it would drag on the wheel. But yeah, it's pretty amazing. I just heard from Mike Silva, and he says he can't connect, so
Oh,
that's too bad.
uh-oh.
Anyway, yeah, the bike packing style is a great way to go, and it usually you have far fewer problems with the breaking racks and things like that because there's no racks. But there's our rig. It's a little bigger, but there's 2 of us. A lot of people thought we were traveling light because you'll see some of the Europeans and how they are. But we got lots of pictures from Jorge. It's amazing. Here's Nancy showing everybody how to do it all.
Flying like a bird, like a condor.
I didn't know.
That help with the hills at all, Nancy?
I did that a lot of times, actually move my arm so cars could see us in shadow. So I would just kind of fool around and wave at people or whatever. But it helped slow down when we're going downhill. So
This is Doug from California. I got a quick question. How are the roads in general, and how did you feel about the conditions in where there was traffic?
it was very, very variable. There wasn't much traffic because we went early in the springtime. We went in December. And so in January was everyone's vacation, so there was more traffic. But there were really good drivers and very polite and went slow, gave us a lot of room. They beeped a lot at us, which was friendly. They were just saying, "Hi, wow, amazing, beep, beep." And you'll see some of the road conditions. We took a lot of different pictures, and that's why it was very variable.
but people were gracious. There's not a lot of traffic on the Carretera Austral. It's a very remote and obscure thing. So, but the people, we felt great about how people were, and I don't think we, I mean, there's the occasional driver that you wish was better, but it was overall quite good. And the security situation in Patagonia, in Chile in general, maybe not the biggest cities, but in Patagonia, we felt like we could leave the bike in front of a shop and come back a week later and it would still be sitting there. Nancy painted a lot. I think a lot more than on any trip that we have done like this. And the first night out, this is what she did.
Nice job, Nancy.
Thanks. Those are very, very small. They're like 6x4. Some of them look like they're really big, but you only have so much room on a bike when you're traveling. So, so
Here's Dale again. And we're moving on the second day. Every day for a month on the Carretera, it looked like this, like yet another valley, yet another mountain to climb, yet another set of beautiful snow-covered peaks. This is the second night, Cochimo, which is a big destination for people. We went this way to avoid some of the difficult riding out of Puerto Montt. This is a nice way to go, except that the first stretch of dirt is in this section.
Yeah.
You see the sign says, this is our first experience with fin de pavimento, so the end of the pavement. And so there's Jorge's rig again. You can see it closer up, and he did have a lot of trouble stacking his stuff in there. It was hard for him to get his stuff together. This isn't a road that we were actually riding on. This was us coming out of a place that we stayed, but and this is the one where Nancy's looking down. This was actually better on the big screen, but if you zoom in there, you can see Nancy looking around my shoulder thinking, what are we doing here? The stoker, so on a tandem, the person in the front's called the captain and the person in the back is called the stoker. And the stoker has no control, no direct control, no brakes, no steering, and can't necessarily see very well. So Nancy is trying to see a little something and she's saying, what are we doing here?
it is nice that Randy's smaller than the average guy. So there, I can see underneath his armpits from time to time to see what's ahead of us. But I can also over his shoulder. So when a big guy is in front, they can't see anything. But that kind of gave me a little security that I understood at least what was coming up in the next 5 to 10 feet, which it gave me ready for different sensations being on the bike, when you had to avoid a pothole and things like that. So here we are in the background, okay, is basically the ocean. And then what we have is a salmon farm. Okay, and we saw those all over Chile. And, people, they're famous because it's one of the biggest products that are exported out of Chile. And it was phenomenal to see those. And there's controversy with salmon farming because they have to use a lot of antibiotics and, it changes the environment. But I don't know, we ate a lot of salmon and it was so phenomenal. Wild goats. And there's the big guy.
I think they're domestic.
He is a big guy. Got big nuts.
Are those nuts on the end?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, this is so amazing that we got all these pictures from Jorge. It's just he just delighted in it because because of the perspective, and it put his trip into perspective. We tried to get pictures of him, but of course we were always behind. He was always much faster.
So go back, Randy, just for a little bit. Okay, so there was a lot of this kind of road, okay, called Ripio, okay, and some of them it was washboarded, and you know, you just, and then they had a slant. We had to stay kind of in the middle and share when cars came by, but you're going to see different conditions. On the next one is a very nice road, okay, a nice shoulder, and there's Dale again. So as I said, it was variable.
How did you find the bike handled those roads? You had knobby tires on it, right?
Randy, you went away.
I don't know what happened.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, yeah. It handled pretty well. I mean, there was parts, they were only 1.5 inch tires. You know, having big mountain biking tires, which would be 2.4s or whatever would be better. But it did fine. You know, if we considering the conditions.
But if we'd had two bikes, it would have been 4 tires and a lot 4 wheels, and it would have been easier to control. These roads were not that bad, but the steep, well, you see later on, the steep downhills with loose gravel were really quite difficult. So because you had to keep control, and of course we're a very, very big rig, and we don't want to go down, and we didn't go down, so that's the good news.
What was it that contributed to the split rim? Was it the rough roads or just wear and tear? Or?
We don't actually know what caused our rim to split like that. We've got a picture of that later. We don't know what caused it. Everybody has a theory, but we don't know what happened. It's an unusual way for it to break.
But look at it, everywhere we were, there was snow on top of the mountains and glaciers, and it was just like, you know, it was like a movie every moment that we were there looking around and cycling.
You see all these beautiful bluebird days. We didn't know how much rain we were going to have, and then fairly early, like the 4th or 5th day, we started having some rain, and we thought, well, we better get used to this. We better learn how to do it, and we were proud that we got going. That's actually coming up here, but we had mostly just phenomenally good weather. It was just lovely weather. So
Go
one
back.
of the first things,
Yeah. Sorry, can you go back? You skipped there. Okay, whoops, go forward. The food. Okay, look at that beautiful food, Consuela. It's Randy's favorite. It's a soup with meat and squash and, you know, potatoes, and I was like, that's typical of some of the food that we were eating. Really delicious.
So we had to take a ferry. The road ends, and there's a kind of a 2-part ferry, and Nancy will tell us about what happened there. Tell us about the bus.
Okay, so we were going to be going on this ferry and then take a road, had to ride for about 15 miles, and then we were going to take another ferry, but we were going to be too slow to catch the other ferry, so they suggested that we hitch a ride with somebody. So what I did is I found an empty bus. Okay, it's a tour bus, and the driver was Patricio, and I asked him and begged him, can you put our bikes in our gear underneath your bus, the storage area? And he said, sure, what the heck? And then when we got to the second part, he actually had the bus in this ferry, and so he drove all the way through until the end. And then he said, do you want to go to the next town? So I said, yes. Okay, let's just go all the way through the town because the road conditions were horrific. Randy, go forward. Okay. And so here's the road conditions. Under construction, lots of traffic, potholes, and I wasn't really up to handling this on the tandem.
And it was raining cats and dogs.
So go back. But
Mm.
he loved Mexican music. So he played it, and Jorge and we had a dancing danced on the bus. And we ended up seeing him twice. He brought his family on vacation and they passed us on the road later on, either both going and coming. And so we met to meet his wife, the dog, the two girls. And it was a phenomenal thing that he did for us.
So what
There's a-
town are you in right now? Whereabouts, do you guys remember the name of the town at that point?
We were on our way to Chaiten. So we ended up at Chaiten this night. We were supposed to ride this road, as Nancy said, and this is about 15K still, or I don't know, maybe 40K from Chaiten. We were supposed to ride that like the next day, but he just talked us into just staying on the bus, and he took us to Chaiten.
Okay.
And that's breakfast in Chaiten, I guess. With
Mhm.
next morning was a little drippy, but
Mm.
we got ourselves going, and it was very nice. Lots of suspension bridges like this.
I'm taking that's not Golden Gate red paint on there. No.
It's orange. Most of them freshly painted are orange.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Not rust. That's good.
Mhm.
We had a exploded tire here, which may
Gotta
have been,
go. Bye.
What?
Oh, Marcia and Curtis, we gotta go. Sorry. We'll get the
Alright.
rest later.
we're
Bye.
gonna
Bye.
we're recording it, so we'll put it on Facebook, and we'll try to send you a note. I don't think you're on Facebook, but try to send you a note with the recording.
Awesome. Like that. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you guys.
So we had an exploded tire. The picture of the tire is out of order here. I don't know why these are out of order. That is a bad tire.
Yep.
It exploded. We didn't understand why it exploded. Our only theory was that it maybe was rubbing. The tire was rubbing, and this may have been a precursor. The rubbing, if the tire was rubbing against the sidewall, it may have been a result of if that failure in the rim had already occurred, maybe it was related. But we didn't ever really understand this either. But thankfully, we had 2 spare tires, which we have never carried spare tires before. But we were carrying spare tires on this trip, mostly because we had backup tires that we were gonna mail ahead or send ahead to somewhere, and we never figured out where to send them to. So we stuck them in the pannier, and we were very happy to have them this day because that tire did not survive.
And we were lucky that we were stopped basically and checking why there was a noise going on, or the wheel was wobbly, or something wasn't right. And so we got off and adjusted things, put a little air in the tire, and we were about to get on. And we rode about, I don't know, 10 feet, and pow, it popped. And it was so loud that Jorge could hear it down over the bridge in back of us, way back, like an explosion. But it was good because we weren't going down a steep hill or up a steep hill. So
That thing.
Those bridges are pretty cool. You can see that bridge is not very wide. There are signs usually on each side saying who gets priority. It's actually kind of amazing to think that they could even build this road and build bridges this big to get this highway extended down here. There were a fair number of cyclists on the road. We would see sometimes 5 or 6 or even more cyclists in a day, and they all stopped here at this food truck.
Jingle all the way.
Here's Jorge being Santa Claus. A lot of people asked us what Christmas was like as we were approaching Christmas time there, and of course, the actual decorations. See, there's a Santa Claus here. The decorations were the same as you'd expect here, except that it was late spring, summer there. About this time, we had seen in the weather forecast a really, really solid rainstorm, 3 days of rain being forecast. And we were wimps, and we just pulled into the town of La Junta and found a very nice couple of cabañas. Dale got one and we got one, and we just settled in, and we were just very comfortable for 3 days waiting out that rain. It was a very nice thing to be able to be in this little spot here. Here's Nancy, a little cook space, a nice table, wood fire that the proprietor kept bringing us the more wood for, and then two little bedrooms. So it was really excellent. And hearts. So Dale went out and bought some cards, and we played hearts. And this is where Bill caught up with us in his car. He had a number of other things to do, and he took his car on the ferry a different way and brought us over there. So we had 3 days, and a lot of people remember that from Facebook, that we had 3 days of hiding out from the rain, and they thought, oh, you had bad weather. But the reality is we had just exceptionally good weather, far better than we deserved. And when we had these 3 days, we were so comfortable. It was really nice.
I think it'd have been hard to extricate me from that.
Dale left a day early in the rain because he wanted the adventure, but we were fine in the nice, cozy cabana.
That was smart.
I could live in a place like that. I think I could. I thought it was really nice. Here we are coming into Puyuapi. You see Nancy and me in the thing there. We have several pictures, and this was a Sunday that we arrived in Puyuapi. Everything in town was closed, but all the cyclists were still coming through, and so they all ended up here.
It was also election day there, and so they closed down everything, and you had to go vote, but that place was open, so got to meet some new people.
You're
Yeah.
saying make it easier for everybody to vote? What a concept.
Yeah, yep.
So Randy, you said all the cyclists, was there more than just your little group? Was it just a lot of cyclists going through all the time, or?
We'd see 5 or 6 people every day. So you see, this isn't us, is Dale. Dale isn't even here yet. So these people aren't us. And this woman here is a Mexican woman. I don't remember where she started.
But she was cycling by them herself. There was a lot of women that cycled by themselves. It was very impressive. One guy, John, was a fisherman, and he brought his fishing tackle with him, and he would go and fish along the way. And so all the people that are here, okay, that you see here, were cyclotourists. And then there was more that came and went, and that's just one spot.
And what would you say was the average age demographics there?
They're either in their 60s or they're in their 20s, probably. But most of us were in our 50s and 60s. So there was the oldest on there was 72, and that was our French friend Jean Francois, and he was delightful. He was 72 doing it alone. He'd ridden from Temuco, I think, and he was on his way. We enjoyed him. And then our friend that rode with us, Dale, is 71. And then there were many people in their 60s-ish or maybe late 50s-ish. And then John was quite young. He seemed like 20s or maybe 30s. Jorge's about our age. He's a couple years younger is all. 66 or something like that. So it was surprising. I would never expect to see that many that many people doing a remote ride like this, but it is world famous. So, oh, as a side note about the voting, both both Jorge and Bill, Bill has Bill has his not Chilean citizenship, but residency. Both of them were required to vote, but you have to vote in your own home place. And so both of them had to go to the police station that morning and get their doctor's excuse that they're out of the country. So they had to get a very official piece of paper that said that they were not home and that's why they didn't vote.
Wow. Not absentee voting, just simply didn't vote and had to have an excuse for not voting.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right, because voting is required.
What do you mean that they had to vote?
They're required under penalty of law to vote. You can, I don't know that you can go to jail, but you can be fined. It's quite a high fine. We don't know whether anybody gets caught.
Compulsory.
I
So-
asked,
Compulsory.
I actually asked, I asked Bill last night if he had to file his excuse or anything. And he said, no, I just have to keep it in case I get called on the carpet. And I don't, so.
Wow. That's beautiful.
This is the cabañas where we stayed, and that's kind of out of. Okay, what's that, Nancy?
Okay, these here are giant rhubarbs, but they're
Oh.
spiky all around, and they were phenomenal. I mean, I wanted to show you in relationship to scale how big these are, and there's other ones, and they're all along the carretera, and these are what's it called, Nuracas, Randy?
Oh.
So, but they're actually edible, the stems, just like rhubarb, and the younger ones. So that was a food source some ways. But when we saw these, we found out that there was these big horseflies that were around, and they were just nasty. Oh, they were just, we tried to outrun them and we couldn't, but we figured out how to take a nap on our red thing. If we didn't move at all, they didn't know that we were there. And we'll show you the red thing in a little bit. And it was our little blankie we would sleep on and take a nap, or cover our bike and protect it from the weather. So anyway.
So Ellen asked what the name of the carretera is. It's the Carretera Austral, and that means the southern road. And Austral is the same root word as Australia, so Australia is in the south. So,
Okay.
and Carla asked if we camped most of the time or stayed in hotels. And early on, Jorge had plans to not camp at all. Actually, I don't think he ever did camp, but he was finding hotels and stuff like that. But we ended up getting pretty comfortable camping, but we were camping mostly in and we'll show you some of them. We were camping, they're mostly you could call them commercial campgrounds. They would charge $7 or $8 or $9 a person, and they would typically have, they were pretty luxurious. They would typically have hot showers and Wi-Fi and a place to plug in phones and stuff like that. But we did get pretty comfortable with that, and sometimes preferred it. But we also stayed in cabins or cabañas and a few hotels. The cabañas were usually the best because they'd have a place for the bike that wasn't too bad, a good access. We stayed in a relatively fancy hotel in the one city on the route, Coyhaique, and it was fine. It was kind of fancy, but it was very inconvenient. You had to put the bike in. They let you bring the bike in, but it had to go in a storage place that they had the key to. So you had to always go ask to get it out and that kind of thing. So, And Doug asked if we'd post our itinerary because he'd like to replicate the route. I don't, the path, yes, I'll put the link to what we were doing, but there are, if you look on the internet, maybe I can find it. Maybe I can find the link. There's somebody that did a very nice blow by blow. But as far as a hotel list, no, we don't have any idea. And we didn't, we found things as we went along. People who were faster than us probably would never have to camp, maybe if they had never have to camp until the last 3 days or so to get down that we didn't do. Those apparently there's no way to do it, but we Dale didn't have to. Dale camped a lot, but he covered the places that we had to camp in one day instead of the 2 days that we had to do them. So our average mileage, Barry was asking, we aimed at about 50 kilometers a day or 30 miles. And there were some days that we went more than that. We went 40 some one day. Maybe we almost went 50 one day, but we aimed at 30 miles a day.
So would you say that if, say, hypothetically speaking, if somebody wanted to do this on e-bikes and had extra batteries, would there have been places to charge them every night and everything? Asking for a friend.
That would require a lot more planning than we have ever done on any trip, but it might be possible, at least to get to Coke Run, where we discovered the broken rim. That last push. Well, no, on an e-bike, I don't know whether you could make it in one day, one long day down there. Oh, but you could stop at Tortel. So yeah, you might be able to do it. That would require a lot of planning. I
can't remember if I told you this, Randy, but we watched a series called Long Way Up, which is, you saw that? So you saw the electric bike things or electric motorcycle things, right?
Yeah, they had a whole support crew.
Yes.
So the question is, on e-bikes, how long does it take to charge your e-bike, the batteries? And, as Randy said, that almost all the camping sites had electricity right at the site.
Okay.
But, finding out how long it's going to charge, that's the big question.
Yeah, if I want to say mine, in the worst case, like from nearly empty to full takes like 6 hours, which is not bad.
Yeah.
So it might be doable. We expected to wild camp a whole lot more than we did. And maybe we should have wild camped more. The towns were, a lot of the times the towns were about the 30 miles apart. They seemed farther than that. These were hard days, especially when we started getting to the dirt. They were pretty hard days. On an e-bike, that would be easier. And, and Dale went faster. He'd get way ahead of us. This is one of those little campgrounds, a little commercial campground, a very nice place, the Refugio here. There's a place to put your tent and a bathroom and a hot shower.
And food, go on to the next one. So you kind of, whoops.
There we go.
Yep. So nice, comfortable place. They had kittens, brand new kittens that were in there, and lots of dogs. They don't chain up their animals, and they just let them run around in the towns and bigger cities. Kind of interesting. So go back, Randy, a couple. Okay, please. Thank you. So All right. So here we're gonna do probably one of the hardest rides. And it kind of scared us for the since we began here. And it's a really steep and long dirt road. And so we're gonna is there another picture, Randy? I don't know. Go back one more. No,
Oh,
okay.
the order
Maybe-
here, yeah.
So yeah, so anyway, and Bill was there supporting us, got us some Coca-Cola right before we started climbing. And it was absolutely beautiful, and it wasn't as bad as people had told us it was gonna be. We just went slow. But you can see here, we're about to go down it's not a dirt road, but some of the steepness that we saw. And along the way, they always had signs that says downhill or uphill. And it's very obvious as we go through here. But when we saw uphill, it's like, oh, because a lot of it was up and then down, up and down, up and down. We'd work hard, but we did good. Okay, you can go.
Yeah, Doug asks if we had any physical problems like saddle sores and blisters and that kind of thing. And we did pretty well on the normal problems. I started out with some plantar fasciitis, and it got worse all the way through the whole thing. And I'm still trying to figure out how to deal with it. But we got into, I would say that we got into the mode. I was really very pleased that we got into the cycle touring mode. It takes a while on a long cycle trip to believe that you're actually going to be able to do it, to believe that you're just in the mode and you're doing what you have to do, and you're getting up and putting away the tent and going on to the next place and figuring out where you're going to go and doing all those things. We hit our stride on that within a few days. And Nancy's always chasing something that's going on, but I don't remember you having.
I had a little arthritis in the thumb, and when I got home, I got a shot, so it's good. But yeah, I think one of the important things to do is to make sure that you have good padding and that you keep them clean. Because so we brought 3 pairs of shorts, and being able to wash those every day, so you always had a clean and a pair of shorts, and then the ones that you washed the night before were drying. And so protecting yourself that way, I think, is really important, because that's something that's really serious when you're on a saddle and you're doing 1,000 miles, is to keep yourself comfortable.
Doug asks how to find the good web pages. I'd be happy to do that. Are you on Facebook, Doug, or no? I'd be more than I've got good links that I'd be more than happy to. In fact, maybe can you hang around a little bit after we're done?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Okay, excellent. All right, what's next? Okay.
Bicycle gang.
Yep, we got new bikes.
Look at that picture.
Oh, you're going fast. Okay. This is a good, important picture, because we talked about washing the shorts. Well, you basically had to wash your clothes and then put it out on your bike. And your bike's your clothesline to dry. So you'll ride down the road, and we had clothes all over our bike to dry it. But this is go back to the previous one, please, Randy. Thank you. I just love this shot. He's all set up, and it looks like he's doing a business there. But he has his jet boil there. And we did bring a stove with us, but it was a little alcohol stove. But next time we're going to get a jet boil. It basically cooks the water and food really quick. But Dale lived on chips, There's going to be another picture, and candy and chocolate. He had a terrible diet, but he was a lot of fun.
Guess you can do that when you're burning like 3,000 calories a day, right?
Yeah, and it's cheap, easy food. So here, I want to show you, go back. So they have the lupins. This was a season that was springtime and all the flowers were blossoming. And so you have the lupins all over the meadows, and it's absolutely incredibly beautiful. So you'll see some pictures, but that it's an invasive species. But for me, it's like, wow, I can do all these paintings with the purple and the yellow flowers and the mountains in the back. So I'm working on some. Okay, thanks, Randy.
A lot of the places early on, seemed like later, had covered campsites. And that's really nice when it is really rainy. And we did like to find those, but here's Jorge in one. Here's some more Ripio that we took, and Nancy was pretty worried about these trucks that were passing us that day, but they slowed down. I don't know, there must have been several of them. I think maybe they were cattle or something. Must have been several of them, but it got better as the day went along. But that was an impressive spot right there. And this was an impressive ride that day. It was a hard ride. And there was some steep downhill which was always the worst thing to encounter on that tandem, was managing the steep downhill on the Ripio on the dirt. Actually, dirt is fine. It's gravel with loose gravel that is the real problem.
Stevie, huh?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's the red.
The red
There's
thing.
the red thing.
Yeah. And Randy, every day, he'd want to have a nap. So we stop on the side of the road, get the red thing out and have a little break. We only did 30 miles a day on the average, sometimes 40, but we spent all day at it because there were things to do, like take naps. Okay, Randy, thanks.
Mike is trying to get in. I couldn't get him.
Okay. So, yep.
There's more beautiful lupin.
Oh,
Big stalks.
Yeah.
And
there's
this is my
Yep.
friend that we were hoping would be here. You can see he's packed heavier than we are.
And he's been on the road for 9 years.
good grief.
Yeah, he's a man from all over the world, and it was fun. We kept on meeting up with him multiple times. But go back one more, Randy. Sorry, to the store. So there is these. Oops. So when we needed some a Pepsi or a Coke or some chocolate or whatever, all along they had little stores everywhere, and we just would look ahead and see these flags that were flying in the colors, and we knew we were going to get something because that's how they advertise. You don't say the name of your store, but when you see all of these logos, it's like, yes, time for a Coca-Cola. Let's stop. And so that's
But not just, I mean, these little tiny stores, the mini mercados or the supermercados, they're where we did most of our shopping. We'd rarely have a shop. Only the very biggest towns that we were in had a store as big as our little grocery store here in Palisades. Actually, only the very biggest cities had one that big, but we had just it's so many along the road of these little things.
one of the things that we ate a lot is that we would get bread, and that we would get sliced cheese and sliced salami, and that would hold us, and we could basically travel all day with that particular food. And sometimes it was our breakfast, and sometimes it was our dinner also.
This was a national park where we spent the night on the way first day south of Coyhaique, and a little walk that we took, and then coming down into Cerro Castillo. Nancy, like this.
The view, as far as you can see the road. And we were only halfway, this picture was taken and we were halfway down. And so we were way up in the mountains, and it was just zigzagging and coming down. And it was like, I think this is the biggest vista I've ever seen in my life that shows just how far this earth is and how much it changes. And to me, this was just breathtaking. I brought tears to my eyes.
Mm.
Curious, do you guys have oversized calipers on your bike?
We have big discs.
I'm sorry, I did.
We have really big discs, but normal brakes.
And how was the wear?
Terry's wondering how it did on this hill.
Oh, we bought this bike because of disc brakes. It always does well.
Okay.
But we did on our previous bike touring in we did a loop around Yellowstone and Idaho, and coming back over Teton Pass, coming down the bicycle route on Teton Pass was a 18% and more. And that bike did not have really good disc brakes, and we had rim brakes, and we exploded a tire due to that. So we've been big fans of disc brakes since then, but this bike has always been good. This is Cerro Castillo, amazing, beautiful place.
Oh,
Nancy did another sketch here.
so talented.
Oh.
Dale's a little bigger than Jorge is. This is where we had Christmas. You see Mike there on the left. He stayed with us for a day or so, and Dale's there. And we're getting to where we start to understand. This is about this point we start to understand like how far we're going to go, because Cochran suddenly shows up on the signs. Cochran was about 4 days. Cochran's where we discovered the broken rim, and it was only 4 days from the bottom. And so we start to say, oh, I can understand 235 kilometers. And it was only about that point that we started. But south of Cerro Castillo, it's all dirt. And we did our one night of wild camping here at this abandoned house. And coming down, it was a couple of long days there. Here's Mike again. One thing, we consider ourselves quite slow, but there were quite a lot of people that were going the same speed that we were going. I mean, I think we spent longer every day getting there than they did, but we ended up kind of on the same pace. This is the Capillas de Marmol, or the something. What does capilla mean? Little
Chapel.
caverns
Chapel of marble.
Yeah.
These are all marbles. They're amazing. One of the we took a tour. We stopped and did some tourist things because we couldn't get to some of these places. And this is absolutely so stunning. I've never seen any kind of picture of these. Go back. I think it's back or forward one. Nope, not that one. Next, go forward. Sorry. Okay. Go forward. Go forward. Oh no, I guess we took it out.
Somewhere.
Yeah. But there were some waterfalls back there, picture. So whoever is going to plan a trip down to southern Chile, you can drink the water off of running creeks and also waterfalls. You just stick your bottle in there and fill it up. And there's no problem. There's no giardia. We were very reluctant to do that, living in Colorado, because we would get very sick, but that's what you do there. And so you didn't have to carry a lot of water with you.
But somebody asked us last night how much water we carried, because we're desert people. We think, we were prepared with our water filter and our 3 or 4 bags that would carry 3 liters each. We were so prepared, and we never used them at all. Not at all. Just 4 bottles of water got us through the day.
In the filter too, we never had to use our filter. So,
Doug asks if we feel like moving to Chile. Chile's a complicated country with a complicated history. Those of you who are older like us remember a quarter of a century of difficult dictatorship rule there. It is a very, very beautiful place. I don't think I want to move there, but we sure did meet a lot of nice people.
I'd go there for 6 months, definitely.
Go
So,
to Patagonia for the correct 6 months of the year.
yes, exactly.
And as far as what bike to take, on this, I would recommend a mountain bike, gravel bike. A gravel bike, if you like drop bars, would do fine, but I would want mountain bike size tires for the Ripio, for the dirt road.
I think in having suspension system also for those would be very helpful.
Oh, would you? Okay. Yeah, I would be fine without that. But here's Mike again.
So Randy, I know you were cycling to France just before this. Which would you prefer, Europe or South America for cycling?
A year and a half ago, Nancy and I did the route in the north of Spain, and had just a wonderful time on the Camino de Santiago. It was a completely different, unrelated experience. That was through old towns that have been serving pilgrims there for 1,000 years, and Spain just knows how to do it. It was just a wonderful thing to do, and Ellen and Randy did it after that. And we loved it, but a completely unrelated experience. That was so easy by comparison, both physically and logistically. No camping required, beautiful little hotels every night, just very nice. And Ellen mentions that it was cheap, and it was. And Chile, a lot of people ask about the prices in Chile. Chile was more expensive than we expected on a number of things. Not really expensive, but we might spend, if we stayed in a hotel, we might easily spend $50 or $60 a night, but not for the quality of thing that we would get on the Camino, and a little harder to come up with. And the food was not as cheap as on the Camino. On the Camino, you get, which really surprising. You'd expect Chile to be cheaper, and some things were cheap, but not all things. But every place you go is different. But this is a very different experience, with the longer distances and the more difficult travel, and these towns are very, very small all the way down.
So to answer that question, one of the things is, what kind of adventure do you want? So, we did the Camino and Spain as a kind of a break, or kind of a check to see if we could do long distances. So we did about 500 miles there. And because we were still able to do that, we said that we could do this particular ride. So this is more adventuresome. Okay, so if you like adventure, yeah. But if you like more consistency and predictability, then go to Spain and do the Camino de Santiago.
Good to know. Thanks.
So this is a llama, and they're only in this part of the world. And this guy jumped like the 7-foot fence by just standing there and just jumping. And we just watched him go up. It's like amazing. And later on, I don't think we have pictures, but we went to another park that was developed by Doug Tompkins, and they were everywhere. They were like hundreds and hundreds of them hanging out. So they're not extinct anymore.
Elizabeth says that is a guanaco, and she's right.
Yes, guanaco. Yep.
Bye, Carla. Here's Mike taking a picture of us coming up over that hill. This was the last day that we rode on the Carretera. We felt like we were just getting our wind on this dirt, and a very hard day. And we did really well getting over those mountains. But then while we were preparing the bike, we discovered this crack in our rim, which we wished we hadn't. We don't know whether we needed to discover that, but once we discovered it, we couldn't put all that load on it again. So this is where we were staying. This little campground here is where we were staying. And is that your dog barking there, Nancy?
I can't hear.
We were staying in that little campground there with all the cyclists who were getting ready to go, and we were just preparing the bike and discovered the cracked rim. And so we couldn't go on the next day. So the next day was New Year's Day, and by tradition, they barbecue a sheep. They barbecue a lamb. So we got to participate in this. So they invited us to join here. A Cordero.
Go to the next one. And so here they're preparing it.
Can't be a vegetarian.
We did all while we were trying to figure out what to do about the bike. Of course, it was a holiday. There was only one guy that claimed to work on bikes in that little town of Cochrane. And we went to the museum, and here's Nancy writing on the shared board, remembering the moments most important that she's lived in Cochrane.
And I said, my adventure is my life. My life is my adventure.
And is that a chalk sketch that you made there, Nancy?
Yes, and I think the next
wow.
picture, kind of
Wow.
just really, and I did it like, in 3 minutes. So it was just a great little thing.
I'm pretty sure none of my grade school teachers could ever use a chalkboard like that.
Mm.
So we also, while we were trying to figure out what to do next, we hired our neighbor to take us out in a truck, and we did some sightseeing. We went to a beautiful glacier that's above Cochrane there. And just lovely to go see this. Of course, they're all receding. And then we went to Patagonia National Park, which is another one who was developed and donated by Douglas Tompkins. If you haven't seen the film called Wildlife, 2 words, look it up. It's on several of the streaming services, but it explains how he and his wife developed all of these huge amount of national parks and then figured out how to donate them to the Chile, to the people of Chile. But that was cool. So here is our friend getting ready to take all the bikes in the pickup to go to where the ferry is. So what we decided was we didn't figure out what to do. Nobody had a clue how to fix our rim. Nobody had a good suggestion about it. So we decided to go to the next town of any size, which is the one that I showed you at the beginning on the map, Puerto Natales, which you can only get there by a ferry or the way we had planned to go. So the ferry goes to Caleta Tortel. And so our friend here loaded us up. We hired him to take us to Caleta Tortel with the bikes. And we got to Caleta Tortel, which is all built on stilts and stairways. And we had to haul the bikes down all the stairs. And this guy hauled the bike up the stairs for us. And we did a couple of touristy things there while waiting for the ferry to come. The ferry runs once a week, and it's 40 hours. It's two nights and one full day on the ferry to get from Caleta Tortel down to Puerto Natales, which again was where we were supposed to end. There's a nice view of Caleta Tortel. And lots of history there along the side of things. Here's Nancy painting. Did another beautiful painting here. Here she is. Now you can see the size of her paintings. And here we are going out on another touristy thing, and then there's the ferry. So it was we got a discount for this ferry.
That is the slow boat.
That's a wreck that we passed by on the 40-hour ferry. That's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Those holes on the side are for where you have to help paddle, right?
That or cannon.
Nancy, did you get a drawing of that wreck?
No, but there was another one. I got a picture of some of the glaciers and the fjords there. I painted that, but I can paint it later on.
Okay.
Now here's the mechanic in Puerto Natales, brilliant guy with access to resources, who had a plan and figured it right out. What he did was he cannibalized our front wheel to get the 40-spoke rim off of it, and rebuilt the back wheel with the cannibalized rim, and then put a completely new wheel on the front. And it took a couple of tries to get the front set up with all the piece parts that had to make it work with the brakes and everything, but he did it. The bike, he did it in such a way that the bike, when we got home, we don't have to send for a new wheel set or anything like that. It's a real fix. The bike is great. And we took a one-day tour out to the Torres del Paine, which is the most famous national park in Chile. This is just a bus, tourist bus tour. Beautiful day. We got to see these incredible mountains, the Cuernos, and it just amazing to see. So then we decided we didn't know what to do next, but we could have continued riding south, or we could have ridden back to the north and east, and maybe do the opposite of what we had intended to do before. But our understanding was that both of those would be not very good riding, kind of like riding across Kansas. A lot of flat land, a lot of wind, a lot of difficult territory. And we don't know whether we made the right decision, but we decided not to ride on from Puerto Natales. And we flew back from Puerto Natales to Puerto Montt, where we had started before. And we decided to ride north through the beautiful northern Patagonia lake country there. So this is us flying, and then this is us starting out on the same first day again, toward Osorno. And we stayed in a number of campgrounds and rode up. And at one point, the little dog adopted us. Cutest thing in the world. We could have taken him with us. But we were kind of lost. We didn't have this sense of purpose that we had marching down the Carretera Austral. We didn't. We enjoyed the territory, but we didn't like. Where are we going to go next? Well, wherever. We'll just go and we'll just see what happens, and we'll go a little farther, and we'll go see another lake. And there are a lot of lakes up there. But one day we were at Futrono, and Nancy was painting this picture, and there you can see where she was. She went and asked if she could sit in the little cafe there and look down at the ferry. This is a ferry that goes out to a little island in the middle of this lake. But Nancy will tell you what happened then.
Well, this lady there was sitting behind us, and she started talking with us. She's from Boulder and has the boyfriend, and he lives in Puerto Montt. And they said, "Well, what are you doing next?" And I said, "Well, we're gonna somehow figure out how to go to Chiloé, which is an island where the houses are in stilts." And she said, "Oh, we have a truck. We'll take you." I was like, "Really?" I was like, wow. So they took us home, and this is their home and their dog. And so I gave them the painting as a thank you. And we started the third adventure. So the Lake District was second adventure, and now we're going to be able to start our third adventure. And here we are on another ferry and getting ready to go.
The island of Chiloé is a quite large island directly south from Puerto Montt. And so we took the ferry across. It was only 30, 40 minutes or something. This first day we had some chance to do some sheep herding.
Mhm.
This is another campground, beautiful little place. It had a beautiful view behind us. This is another, just kind of place that we usually would stay. You can see there's a lot of up and down on Chiloé. These were very difficult ups and downs. One of the days was probably the highest elevation we've done, even though we weren't going over a pass.
They're back, and then they went up to Lake, and now they're back.
Here's another one of Nancy's sketches. And I think she was sitting right there doing it.
Mhm.
A lot of churches, national UNESCO World Heritage Site churches on Chiloé. And so we tried to take a picture of a number of those. Most of them aren't used anymore.
Randy, is that what they mean by pole barn?
I don't know. But they,
That was a joke.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, actually, many of the churches have that structure on them, and I don't know whether that's the original or whether that's to hold it together.
Interesting. Huh.
We had a lot of good food on Chiloé, and this bird kept Nancy company while she was painting. Oh, we don't have the picture that you did there. That was a nice picture.
Yeah. So she made empanadas for us, and I love this picture. So I'm going to do a painting of this lady, and another one of Mikel in the dark wild place that we were camping. So here's the houses on the stilts. And this is amazing town because in 1960 there was a phenomenal earthquake, and the earthquake started tsunamis. And this little village this part of the village did not get destroyed. But places in Hawaii, the tsunami hit there, in Japan, and destroyed like worldwide all of these locations. But this is where we stayed, in this little village here in Chiloé. And so I went and painted on one of those decks, and that's where the seagull was. And I got a real sense of this place. It has high tides and low tides, and it's like the low tides are just phenomenal. It comes up probably 5 feet every day, or goes down 5 feet. And I love Chiloé. The people were great. It was a phenomenal place, and so wasn't the food.
Good.
This is the last night in one of those little campgrounds, and that was our last day of riding. We came back across on the ferry. I went back to Bill's and packed up, put the bike back in its stuff, and flew home. And now we're trying to catch up on everything. We do appreciate you coming, and let's see if we can answer some of the questions here. Yeah, that wildlife was on. We watched it on. We got a. How did we watch it, Nancy? We watched wildlife on something that we got a free trial on, and
Yeah.
it was good. So Dee Dee asked how we did money, and this is an amazing thing. In Chile, every little store takes a credit card or a debit card. Every single little tiny store. And so
Nice.
that's what we did most of the time. It was like, wow. And locals have a debit card. There were places and people and situations that were cash only, and we did things with Chilean pesos, but but most of the time we didn't. Ellen.
So everything looks beautiful. We didn't show a lot of pictures of the Lake District, and I'm wondering, was that because was it too crowded, or would you not recommend it? I mean, I saw them on your Facebook site, but I don't see them here.
It's because we've been talking too long
Oh,
anyway.
okay.
We didn't get this winnowed down enough anyway. I mean, if you can imagine if we had left any, you can imagine what percentage of our pictures this is. It's not very many. But we didn't want to wear you completely out. So
Ellen,
Yeah.
Ellen, if you want to see pictures from there, let's do a private Zoom or come on over and we'll show you those pictures. It was more farming, various farming. It wasn't as exotic as a couple of these places, but the roads were really nice and I was a lot more relaxed because I felt more secure. But still, it was, you know, you go to Argentina to the Lakes District, and you know, I recommend being able to just go to that area and Chile and Argentina and ride the Lakes District.
Okay, because we might have like 2 or 3 weeks, so we were thinking we could do Lake District for like a week and maybe this for a week, but it seems like you need different bikes for those two things. I don't know. Is that?
Yeah. I think if you have one that could do all of it, and that would be a you know, a gravel bike with thick wheels.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah, anybody that wants to is welcome to hang around. We'd talk about give you some links to other people that have done it and some resources for Patagonia. Or if you have any other questions, happy to chat about Doug. If you'll hang around, we can talk about wheels and that sort of thing. So,
Any other questions, anybody?
So I have one more question. So like if you were like on the Austral or wherever you went, is there like a place you would say, don't go? You know, is there one spot like just avoid? Was there one area that you would have liked to live without? I don't know.
No, I think, you know, when you're up north, Santiago, that, you know, it's there's what's the desert up there? Anyway, I like the remoteness and that a lot of people, it was very safe. I think they said that the more that you go north in Chile, the less safe it is because it's more towns, you know. It's true here in the United States. The bigger the city, the, you know, the less safe.
Makes sense.
Well, thank you, everybody. It was
Thank you
great
so
seeing you.
much.
we'll let me get
That was wonderful.
I'll get some links here for people that are interested in future things. See if I can find it here. I've got there's some really excellent resources. Some of them, the route is so long and has so many places on it that it was hard to understand how they all fit together at first, of course. But their Bicycle Patagonia, let me give you the link to that, is a great resource. So let's see if I can send this to send it to the whole group. Meeting group chat, that's what I want. So here's the Bicycle Patagonia overview, and that's a little confusing because you can start riding the Carretera Austral from really either from Bariloche in Argentina or from where we started. And so it was a little difficult to understand how those things all fit together. And I think, let's see here. I'm looking for the one. Oh, we carried the book called Carretera Austral. Let me, that was actually, it was actually quite good. It was too hard to understand early on, but that book, we had it on Kindle. We also bought it as a paper book, and it was I couldn't read the paper book because the print was too small, but the book was really quite excellent, and we used it all the way down. It's not bicycle specific, but there's all kinds of people do this, do the Carretera on, they do it all the time on Jeeps and motorcycles. It's one of the world's great adventure destinations. And so we saw lots of people doing band trips or four-wheeler trips, all going down the Carretera with the same general ideas going on.
Oops, I think I just cut off.
No,
Yeah.
you're there.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm still looking for my notes because that one that I shared all the time that I liked quite a lot, I'm still looking for. What's the name of the trip that we keep referencing? It's the Carretera Austral. That's the road in Chile that is the basic of it. But if you search for bicycling bicycling Patagonia, or something of that nature, or bikepacking Patagonia, you'll find a lot of good resources. This might be it here.
No. He does a lot of things, maybe eventually.
No, this isn't what I wanted. That's not what I wanted. But I think you'll find lots of resources. You'll find lots of resources there, Doug, as you look around. The book was quite good, and the Bicycle Patagonia was good once I started to understand where the different places are. I know it. The other one that is really good is the one about the parks, Ruta de los Parques. And it has both Spanish and English language versions. And this isn't about bikes either, but this is about the whole territory. There's so many national parks that you could make an amazing journey just exploring these national parks. And of course the Tompkins, Doug Tompkins and his wife were the ones that made that whole series of parks happen. It's amazing. Hey, that's our bridge right there, Nancy.
Which one? All the bridges have a name. And so if you want to learn Spanish, you could read the signs and then look up and says, what does that mean? And some of them were like bridge, no name 1, no name 2, no name 3. It was funny to see the names of all the bridges.
Thanks for doing this, Randy.
You betcha. It was great to have you, and thanks for joining us. And maybe we'll see you next time. So yeah, and if you have any questions or follow up or anything, we're happy to talk with you anytime. So
I got one quick question.
You bet.
Wait a minute, before you do that, I just want to say that before you ask that, is that there's some people around here that are planning on going next year.
Ooh.
So yes, in the Cycle Pass group. So if someone wants to have some friends or coordinate that, there is that opportunity.
This is the Cycle Paths meetup group?
Yep.
Yeah, Grand Junction Cycle Paths.
Grand Junction, yeah, I remember that name. Yeah. So I haven't been on a long bicycle tour since I was 20 years old in 1982. Would you recommend this ride? I ride 3 times a week and I'm in pretty good shape, but would you recommend jumping back into it with this ride?
Well, we always try to do a practice ride, both for our bikes and for ourselves. And for this, we kind of did a set of practice rides. So we hadn't done a fully loaded ride for a few years. So we did the ride from DC to Pittsburgh to try it out, because we knew that would be gentle. It was about 10 days. We knew that it would be. So I would always recommend try it out first, maybe closer to your home territory. See whether you like it before you dive in the deep end. And then, of course, we always do a shakedown ride before a big ride as well to make sure that our gear is working. So we did a 3-day trip here in the Grand Valley in Colorado right before our trip, right before it got too cold to sleep out at night. And so I would do something smaller first before you dive in the deep end. It does help with this one also to have some Spanish, or at least to have Google Translate working. It just makes things easier. But Google Translate did pretty well for lots of people. Our friend Dale would just walk up and start talking to people in English and hope that it worked out, and it never did. But
So, so you went through quite a lot to ship your own bike down, whereas Gregorio or what was his name?
Jorge.
Jorge rented a pretty well-suited bike. What do you think? What are your thoughts on?
So yeah, it was Dale that rented the bike, and it worked fine for him. So I think that was a great idea. And they are right there. The people that rented it are right there. I can probably come up with their. Do you remember the name of it, Nancy? It's called.
Take a picture of it. Nope, I can't remember the top of my head.
I think I can find it, because I mean, that's a lot easier than it's Austral Bikes.
Yeah. Well, the one advantage of bringing your own bike, you can have local stores pack your bike in cardboard, is that it fits you. Okay, and having a bike that fits is really important. And for us, we couldn't get a tandem bike to do it there, but the fact that it comes apart and puts it together, we're very familiar with it. And I'm 5 foot, so I can't find bikes that are that small to fit me. So if you have special needs or special fits, then it's going to be easier using your own, and it's not really that hard to pack a bike.
But Dale is huge, and he was happy with his bike. So, but there is a lot to be said for knowing what you've got.
Other people rented a bike, and it was not a good bike. It was like an 80s bike and things like that. So, it didn't have good brakes and all that. So, getting something very reputable, and you can ride it one way and drop it off there, and they'll ship it back. And so that's a convenience to think about, is that you can, so that one that Dale rented was a really good bike.
Yeah, Doug, Terry and I did that in Zion and Bryce last year. We rented bikes there. And they were even the newer e-bikes, but we just hated them. We just didn't like the ergonomics of them. They weren't a bike that we would buy to ride. All we were doing was just riding around the national park, because that was pretty easy. But yeah, that's, as Nancy said, that's the risk you run there.
And if you do rent a bike down there, then bring your own saddle.
Yeah. Bring your own saddle and your pedals and your saddle. And I guess I would bring my own my own panniers, like my own gear, if I had my gear going.
I see.
So, but I did a short ride in Spain last fall and rented a bike, and that was actually quite a good experience. But I took my saddle and my pedals, and it was great. They had it delivered to the beginning point, and I just took it to the shipping place at the end point, and that was it.
So I'm looking at a local bike that I have little experience with these, but it's got the internal geared hub, the roll off,
Yeah.
ritzy fancy hub, but it eliminates any issues with chains for the most part, because you don't have a chain that has to move up and down a derailleur and chain cassette. Do you recommend any of that kind of more exotic equipment compared to?
I mean, Europeans love their roll-off hubs. Roll-off is a wonderful, wonderful brand. And so I mean, you couldn't go wrong with that. It's probably slightly heavier, but yes, simpler, and highly recommended. The real thing is just do it. Just figure out, go do something smaller, do something bigger. It's like almost all outdoor stuff. The spending the money doesn't get you out there. The real thing is getting out there and actually doing it, and you'll figure out with what you have one way or another.
Yeah, I just want to avoid the things that keep you from going back out there, like
Roll-off
frustration.
is roll-off. If you could get a roll-off set up, you would love it.
Right? Okay.
One thing to consider, Doug, is I just got a bike with an Enviolo hub, which is similar to the roll-off. And the one thing that I found surprising I didn't think about is that I don't know about the roll-off, but you can't shift it while you're pedaling.
Roll off you can.
Okay, good, because that's huge. It's okay until you have to start up going up a hill.
Oh, uh-huh.
So yeah, that's key.
Yeah, and roll-offs, they say you can go like 1,000 miles between servicing on them or something, but I don't know if that's a benefit. I just wanted to get your perspective as to whether that really be a benefit compared to an open chain drive system for these kind
I've
of.
always wanted a roll-off hub ever since the first time I rode with a Dutch couple that had them. They're wonderful. I think we would have considered there may not be. You'll have to study, but we would have considered a roll-off for this bike if we hadn't been kind of in a hurry getting it, probably. And if we'd been thinking for a couple more years about it, we would have considered a roll-off. The one thing that you want, like for us, we have to have really low gearing. And so we have a 3x10, I think, with really very low gearing. And if I were buying a roll-off, I would be checking to make sure whether I had the same gear inches on the roll-off that I could get on a 3x10.
Okay, so go for make sure it's got low gearing.
You might not need as low as we do, but on a tandem that's loaded, you need really low. I mean, we have mountain bike gearing, and that's just fundamental. So
there were some people that had roll-offs on the ride that we did. Jean-Francois had that, and they loved it, and therefore no maintenance, and so it is dusty, so we had to keep on figuring out how to keep the chain lubed with all the dust.
I was going to ask, did you guys have any problems with your chain and gears at all on it, or?
No, we didn't. We didn't have any trouble.
We had weird noises. I don't know. The bike kept on, it was like a ghost in it. We'd fix one thing and something else would come, but it's just the nature. I mean, the Ripio is gnarly, and it's washboard. It's like the whole road is washboard. So, it's gonna, shake everything up, including your brain and your body.
Yeah, I've had that experience with sand getting in there, and it doesn't slow you down much, but it sure